Incoming transmission.
Hey everybody, this is Ed Pug with Boosting the Signal, and this week my guest is Dave Blass. You know Dave. Now let's get to know Dave a little bit better. Hey Dave, how's it going?
Excellent. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming along and being here. It's wonderful to be able to speak to you and as it were, get to know you virtually like this. Dave, I got to tell you, I first and foremost, I love your photography on Instagram. I have to say that is one of my absolute favorite
Oh,
things
thank
about
you.
Instagram. You are a true treat to my thread, as it were. Um, I was showing my wife some pictures this morning from your trip to Greece, and we were discussing that I have a half sister that lives in Greece, and that was it was a way of me saying, well, this is where she lives, and I seen they've been getting a lot of snow there recently too. So,
Yeah, that was a fun one. I had just relocated from LA from Atlanta back to LA, so I had some time, and I'm like, oh, what do I do for the holidays? I'm like, I'll hit Greece. It's a good time of year to go because it's actually it's empty there. So like the islands are very sparse, and you can walk around and it's really nice.
well,
So.
that's good. That's good. Yeah, I don't think I like people. So emptiness would suit me very well.
Mhm.
When you one of the pictures that you had shared recently, I was curious about, and I thought about commenting, but I knew we had this opportunity. And you showed it was the oh, you were showing the butt load at the end, the butt of a barrel. Where
Yes.
exactly was that? That was
That was it. That was in a monastery in Meteora, Greece. It's these monasteries. That was in one of the James Bond movies, but there are these monasteries that are on top of these cliffs, and there's basically just the monastery, and you got to like climb 8 million steps to get to them. And it was a giant cask that they had. So clearly the monks did well with the wine. And I don't know if they were making it and then selling it in the town or what the deal is. But uh, the cask was built inside the room, so clearly you're not getting it out. So they would let it. I guess what if it was? I'm assuming it's wine. They would just let it ferment in there, and but down in the valley right below it, they had the vineyard. So
uh,
they probably crushed it. But it was a fun little place.
so, and it's no longer active.
The monasteries are they, but they're open to the public as like anything else that making money. So they open parts of it to tours and things, and some of them are open, some of them are closed. The monks and the nuns still work there and preserve it, but most of these have been around since the 1400s. So they need a lot of preserving. So I think it's that thing of open them up, let run tours so you can make money and help preserve the place.
Yeah, interesting. The one thing I have you the with not only your concert photos that you take, which are amazing them themselves, and your when you're on some vacation, I guess it were,
Mm.
have you ever considered putting out any type of tabletop book of your photography? Because honestly, there has to be a market out there for it, and you have some wonderful pictures that you shared. I can
Yeah.
only imagine what you haven't.
Yeah, people ask me, no is the answer. I mean, I think if you go on like Blurb or something, one of them, you could because I printed up books myself
Oh, okay.
just to give to people, whatever. And you can go on Blurb if you type in Dave Blass. I think you can buy. Because I think I made them available for people to purchase. But it's just, now everything is so publishing in this new era, you lose money on it. We even tried to do initially. I tried to do a Star Trek Picard book, The Art of Picard, and no one was interested in it. I talked to all
Really?
the different publishers and this, and no one was interested in it. And all of a sudden, then I get a call from the writer who's writing the Art of Picard book, and he's like, "Oh, we're writing the book. I'm writing it." I'm like, "Well, I tried to write it myself." But as far as like books and things like that, even the photographers I know that are name and people in like Mark Weiss or Niels Lozauer, they have books and they can't sell them. So I'm like, my work is good, it's cool, I enjoy it, but compared to, other people who can't sell books, I'm like, it's just not, there's not really a market for it. It would be great if I could. I'd probably sell a handful, but for me, it's like I end up getting 90% of people looking at my stuff through Star Trek or from other shows. They're like, "Oh, you do this too," and it's interesting. I was talking with Nick G, the director, and he's actually doing the Kiss movie. He's doing a Kiss biopic, and he came into my office, and I had all my Kiss photos in my office. He's like, "Oh, whose are these?" I'm like, "They're mine." He's like, "Wait, take photos too?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do a lot of stuff. Jack of all trades." So, but it's that thing of, yeah, it's just, it's good to do it, but trying to make a career out of it or make money out of it is a challenge. Speaking of books, Liz Klaskowski wrote a book about the recreation of the Enterprise D, and she did get a book deal. So hopefully, fans get to see that book, and I've helped her out with that. So fans will get to see the whole making of very soon, I hear.
Well, it'll definitely be one I would add to my list. And the art of Picard, I haven't seen it pop up on any of my lists, but I'll definitely would buy that. Specifically, one of the things, and I know that you had a great hand when it came with the Shrike. When I think about Star Trek Picard, I think about the Bridge of the Shrike and everything that was done to make it look well, because it was the La Serena, if I do believe it was the lower
Yes.
level of the La Serena, and it you turned it into the Bridge of the Shrike, and the lighting was, man, I hate to use Chef's Kiss in reference to it, but it was so
Yep.
well done, and I always thought that was something, and I remember that day specifically as the first time I noticed your name because I had just finished rewatching Justified. So,
Hmm.
and I was like, wait a minute, I know that name because I stick around for credits. I see names, and then it's like, all right, and then I start putting two and two together. But I would love to know more about the Shrike. So, I mean, if it's in
Well,
book
that
form,
was an interesting one, and that was Terry and I deciding that we want to do the Enterprise D and we want to do it right. And he's like, "Okay, great. So, but I also need the bad guy ship for this, for the first part of the season, but we don't have any money left. So figure that shit out." And literally, that was the directive. It's like, okay, get out of my office. You have $4. Go. And I'm like, and also we had no stage space because we had stuff, every single corner of every single part of the stage was being used. And that was part of Terry's brilliance. Because people, will say like, well, the fact that you use the bar in season three, I'm like, yeah, the reason we used the bar in season three is because we had no money and we had to put scenes somewhere. So the bar was sitting there. So it's like, that's free. So how do we use it? It's a holodeck room. Okay, I'll buy that. And, so I literally was looking around these stages. I'm like, where can I put a bad guy ship? And we had scenes with Worf and Raffi, and because they were on La Serena, but they were mainly, if you look at that ship and the 3 years that it was used, the downstairs gets used almost never. And it's kind of a funky thing because it's a big two-story set that 90% of the time you're using the upstairs, and it's a pain in the ass to get everything up there and whatnot. But yeah, so it was that thing. It's like, okay, then I'm downstairs. I'm like, okay, what can I do that would be super easy, super cheap, and make a big impact? And then we had just finished shooting the Helios, which is the ship in the first two episodes that Jack Crusher's on. So I literally went down, looked. I'm like, okay, if I take the console from Helios, I take those big frames that have the L cars in them. I'm going to take those, take these consoles, take these things, take the La Serena's the chairs from La Serena, and we're going to paint them all copper, and we're going to put some stuff on them, and I'm going to come up with this pattern and that's going to fill this gap. And then I went to the DP Crescenzo. I said, okay, so this is how we lit it for La Serena, but I want to light it like this, and this is where it's going to blow your mind. And then I said, and I'm going to use this technique that I used on The Biggest Loser. And he looked at me, he's like, what? He goes, like the weight loss reality show. I go, yeah, that one. And he's like, what are you talking about? So I'm like, I'm going to take this window screen, I'm going to metal window screen, I'm going to crinkle it up, and then I'm going to spread it out. And when you spread it out and you uplight it, it gives it this really wavy, metally texture that looks like, and it's like, and then if you move the light and you make this light darker in the thing, so you bring up this level, you would drop this level, it looks like the window screen is flowing metal.
Hmm.
And he looked at me, it's like I'm crazy. And then we did it. And he's like, oh, well, that worked. So we did that in the windows behind where Vatic was. That was actually just covering, it was hiding the fact that the sick bay was back there, the Las Arenas sick bay. And then really the only money we spent, I mean, it's like literally crinkled window screen, a bunch of panels with weird cut holes in them, and then paint everything copper, and then the only money we spent was on Vadic's chair. So, and in fact, the if you really want to see how cheap we were, the Vadic's chair is sitting up on a little riser, and that riser was then later used for Shelby. And when you see the Enterprise G, no,
F.
F, sorry, the Enterprise F, when Shelby's on the bridge, that's actually the same riser that was used in the Shrike. So we used every part of the buffalo, as they say.
Yeah, I'm gonna definitely go back and especially check out that screen. I gotta see that on the Shrike. I'm gonna be looking for that crinkled up metal, just so
Yep.
I can see it. That's wow. I never would have thought about that. The Yeah, the lower section of the Lost Arena. I think the main focus of that would have been season two. Like the first thing that comes to my mind is Rafi and Seven sitting at the tables. I remember
Yep.
that scene, and that's about the biggest part I can think about. Or when the Borg, Jurati was messing with the Borg Queen at that time. Um, but then I think the bar. When I think about the
Yeah.
bar, I get the use of it. Like throughout Picard season two, everything seemed to be shot stage left, whereas on Picard season three, everything was shot stage right. It did give it a different feel.
Yeah.
It felt like different angles, everything else, and it was well done. I never really gave it much thought until today.
Yeah. It was one of those things, and again, as a fan of Justified, for me, the 10 forward bar, it started out as like, oh, they wanted it to be like a bar and that was a kind of like a how do you how do you justify it? And it was that thing of going, they just give me the marching orders. And I'm like, okay, I get what you're going for, but does it make any sense whatsoever that this bar in Los Angeles is going to stay the same and look the same and be in the same spot 400 years later? And so that's where I had to like go deep into my Star Trek lore. And there's a scene with Janeway when they come back in time, and I think it's Janeway who says it. It's like, oh, in the future, all this is underwater because of the earthquake.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so they're standing on like the Santa Monica Pier. So I said, ooh, earthquake, flood. What if there was a part of town that wasn't impacted as part of the flood, and there was like one little all enclave of things? It's like this area survived the flood, thus it became a historic district, and thus they save it, and you can't like change it. And that's why so if you go to a place like New Orleans, all like in the French Quarter, you can't change the facades in the French Quarter. It's like
Hmm.
they have to be maintained as they are. um, and there's like people will take and completely gut the inside of the French Quarter place, like Lenny Kravitz did that. He made it all modern and nice, but the outside looks just exactly as it did. So that was my idea, is that okay, because of the earthquake and because it's a historic thing, she couldn't change it, or it didn't change, which is why it becomes this timeless place. And I'm like, okay, in my head that works. And
Yeah.
they're like, yeah, we don't care. And I'm like, can I put a sign up that says historic district? And they're like, yeah, well, we don't care. And I'm like, okay, great. So that way when the fans ask, that's why it's this. You
I
know,
like that.
that's
It works.
Yeah,
It works. It
yeah.
works. And the things that, as a Star Trek fan, I know we all will pause, zoom in, and try to read all the signs that we can. Unfortunately, Picard never got a 4K release for season three, and I think that there
Well,
was
that
a
would
debt.
require us to shoot it in 4K for it to be released on 4K.
Yeah,
Uh,
I read up on that. I
yeah, yeah. So I don't think season three has been released on 4K, has it?
No, season three didn't get a 4K. I don't think any of them did. I'm looking at mine, and all I have are standard. So
Yeah.
I think the only
So the
ones that got.
main Yeah, the main thing is the visual effects. If you shoot it 4K, your vis effects have to be 4K, and you have to up res. You have to, all the render time to get those visual effects at that render quality takes double the, So I mean, just simple math. It's like the effects at 4K or 2K, it takes a lot more time to render and do all those things. So, yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, I've learned that even with doing the podcast, I thought I would get all fancy and do these in 4K, and I realized it was taking me, too much time and too much bandwidth. I was like, no, we'll stick with the 1080p. It's fine. It's good enough. Nobody needs to see me in 4K. So, but I get that and everything else. Just out of curiosity, something that's come up recently on the Jonathan Frakes and Brent Spiner podcast is about them trying to, take their jackets and stuff. And I seen that you had posted about that as well. How about you? Did you ever get any souvenirs from not maybe not even there, but anywhere? Have you ever had something that you were able to take with you?
I'm not going to mention anything about Star Trek. um, at all. No, from Star Trek, I think I posted it. I asked if I could take because I was getting a old Victorian home up in Canada that I bought, and I wanted some of the sconces that we used in Chateau Picard. I'm like, oh, they would work for the house, but also they'd be nice. That I'm like, oh, these are the sconces from Chateau Picard, and they're like, no. I'm like, well, I'll buy them, and they're like, no. I'm like, okay, but like you're doing an auction, but no one's gonna buy the sconces from Chateau Picard. They're gonna look for phasers and shit. And no, and I'm like, okay. I'm like, I can just buy them from the same place we bought them. It's not a big deal. No. And I'm like, so, and still to this day, I have no idea where they went. It's not like, oh, they went here and I could go buy them again. And it's like they're gone into the ether. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's like I've kept a few things over the years. I'm trying to think if I have anything handy. But yeah, I'll grab something. Here we go. Star Trek trivia here because I have it. This was something that we had made up that we that we didn't end up doing. We were doing a
Oh,
trackball type of thing that would be in the console, so that you would like if you're trying to adjust the movement of the ship, that you would basically have this, and it was set into the console, and that was basically the Stargazer, and it was like. Okay, so it's kind of like a mouse trackball, but we were going to have it floating so that you'd adjust it. So we have these made up, and it just
that's cool.
couldn't get it. Couldn't get it. It ended up looking too what do you call it? Like crystal ball like, and it was like we thought it would be like almost hologram like,
I see.
but we didn't end up doing it. But so that we had I had that as a prototype, but yeah, I mean it's unfortunately the amount of stuff that when they're done with the show they just toss it all and you're like ah. I'm like I want it but you're throwing it away and but for stuff for shows I've grabbed a bib or a bob over the years but ever since the eBay era it's like everything becomes an auction thing even on Justified um
Really?
you know yeah it's like at the end of the show they had the lawyers coming in and grabbing everything and I was able to take a bunch of stuff and I sent it to Harlan, Kentucky, where I established a Justified museum
Cool.
or a museum tour piece at the Harlan tourism department. So you can go down there and see they have a whole display of Justified stuff. So, because I traveled down there a number of times and people are so great, but all the fans they go to Harlan because it's in Justified,
Yeah.
uh, but we never shot there. And there's it's not. So it's like, okay, you're going to Harlan to see just because of Justified, but there's nothing Justified there. We didn't shoot there, so what's the point? So I'm like, well, let's make a little museum piece so that when people come and they're fans of the show, that they have something to go and check out.
Yeah, I didn't realize it didn't film there. That's news to me.
Yeah, no, we actually filmed in the same place we did Star Trek Picard. In fact, here's a bit of Justified tied with Star Trek trivia. Raylan's motel room. It sits in the same exact spot as the USS Enterprise D. So they were on the
So you're
same
talking
exact.
about the bar when he was living above the bar?
No, his motel room.
Oh, the motel one. Okay, okay.
Yeah, when he like the motel room where he had that motel room was built on the same stage that we did the Enterprise D.
Oh wow. Okay, because I remember that one. I do remember that one. I was thinking about the bar when he had the room above the bar.
The bar that he had the room above was on the set where La Serena was.
Okay. Wow, that is
Yeah.
amazing. I didn't know that. Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, and then if you want to, I'm thinking like I go Justified in Star Trek, then I go, well, Patton Oswalt was in Justified, and he was in he was in Picard season 2, so
Yep.
he was, so a little bit of connection. I like that.
Yep.
Cool. So you do so I'm going to ask and kind of assume at the same time, when you're out and you're traveling like this, are you location scouting at the same time for things for projects?
Always, yes. Um, um, it really depends on what we're doing. Like, I was in Atlanta doing, Murdoch, Death in the Family, the true crime series. Um, and then after that, I came back to LA. Now I'm doing Baywatch. So it's like you kind of bounce around and find whatever it is that you're doing. But you get really immersed in whatever that is. So it's like if I'm working on Star Trek or, as I said, I was right before Star Trek, I was doing Ghost Rider, for Marvel, and that was the same studio.
Unfortunately,
So
that didn't
I
happen.
that didn't happen. That was sad
Yeah.
because Gabriel was really good and he was such a great guy to work with. But yeah, I mean, so it's kind of working. You work a lot. I mean, you're working 12, 14 hours a day, 6 days a week on one project. So it's like it's not so much focusing on anything else. So I'm not like here in LA scouting for anything else.
But I didn't know if like when you were in Greece, did you see something and think, okay, this may work for,
Uh,
this or
Yeah,
whatever.
it's the yes is the thing. It's like you'll see I mean, I have hundreds and hundreds and thousands of photos of things, so it'll be that thing where I interviewed for a Netflix show called One Piece, and they're like, oh, this takes place in this place and that place, and I'm like, oh well, here's photos. I was just there. I've been to Machu Picchu. I've been to this, and you can show them, and you have those different textures and different things. And there was actually a color of a building that I saw in Santorini that I really liked. Like, oh, I might use that for something else. So you never know what's going to come into play. But like Chateau Picard had, I've been to Tuscany and that had a lot of those vibes to it. So it depends, it's always good to be able to go back through it. It's one of those things that I tell people with shows like Justified and Longmire and Murdoch, and it's like I've spent so much time in prisons. It's like it's that thing of I have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of photos of being inside prisons. It's like it's kind of sad how much I know what the inside of a prison looks like, but and also that it doesn't phase me at all. It's like going to a prison and being locked in a cell and stuff and whatnot. So I've probably done prison cells more than anything else in my career.
Yeah. When you were doing the Murdaugh pictures and stuff, I remember texting Spencer Garrett and showing him because I saw that he wasn't following you on Instagram at the time. And I'm like, are you not seeing
Mm.
these? I knew he was filming and everything else and it was coming out. And And he's like, yeah, yeah, I know. And I'm like, well, okay, well, I didn't know, you know. It's like I didn't realize at the time, but I was glad to see those pictures because it was a really good series. You know, it was a lot of
Yeah.
information I didn't know, and I didn't realize that you were a part of it until the pictures started sharing,
Mm.
you know, online.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, true
uh,
crime is I've gotten into another story that I'm developing, and it's a different thing because all of a sudden it's not fantasy, it's these people's lives, and you realize, you're treating it like you're from Hollywood and it's a story, but the reality is very different, and you all of a sudden you realize that no matter which side of the coin it is, it's like you're making money off these people's misery, and it's kind of
yeah.
like, ugh, you know. I remember going to the bar where Paul Murdoch had um, gone to and had shots right before they got in the boat accident, and I was talking to a woman. I was kind of not really saying that I was working on the show, just getting information, and she's like, "Yeah, I adopted Mallory's cat when she died," and I'm like, damn, I'm like,
Oh
you're like
man.
that. It's like these people knew everyone, and it's like you're like, okay, this is, these people, and even the family members and things. Like, it's a tragedy, and
Yeah.
murder and death and stuff, and you realize it happens far too often, and it's actually not that big of a, it's a huge deal, but it's really not because it happens so often that you're like, oh, okay, this person got murdered, and it's like, oh, this person got murdered, and then it's like and the cops and the police work and having to investigate. And it's like, even if it's not murder, it's like, oh, the person didn't die. It's like they were still beaten or attacked or whatever. And that the cops have to go investigate it and that you never quite know exactly what happened. And it's fascinating and horrible at the same time.
Yeah, it's fascinating and horrible that it's become so commonplace anymore that it's not everyday news. It's not like, oh, breaking news. You can't believe what this
Well,
just
and I
happened.
think I think to that point is it is and it isn't. It's like, the more you look into stuff, it, we just have more access to news now than ever before, and you can look up stuff and read about stuff.
Yeah.
But it's like the amount of violence and things isn't really going up. We just have access to seeing it more often, and it's like we used to. You'd watch the nightly news, and you'd watch your local news, and then you watch the national news.
Yeah.
Um, but in the national news, you got like national stories, and the local news, you get your local stories. But now you get to hear the local stories, and there's so much news. It's like, oh, okay, there's a murder, someone goes missing, and or there's this murder in Ohio or whatever. You hear about it, and they do a whole story, and because everyone's doing the thing, it's like, oh, okay, but 30 years ago, you would have never heard of that story because it's like, well, why does someone in California care about a murder in Ohio? We have our plenty of murders ourselves, but it
Yeah.
becomes that thing, the podcasts right now, the true crime podcasts are through the roof with all these people. And it's fascinating, but it's also, it's weird.
Yeah. Unfortunately, you're right. Now I'm gonna switch gears. When we were talking about the photography and stuff, you do a lot of musical performance, concert footage, photography and stuff. I've seen your pictures of Metallica and such as that.
Mhm.
But just out of curiosity, do you have a favorite like genre of music that you would like photography, taking photography of, or is there something that lends itself better to the photography and music?
That's why I shoot what I shoot. I love it. It's the energy, it's the passion, it's the the hair and the guitars and the things, and I've shot country music. I've shot I did a wonderful shoot with Russell Crowe, and oh my God, it's one of the fun story. He was playing the whiskey because he's an amazing vocalist, but he was playing the whiskey, and I called his publicist and I said to get a photo clearance. And they're like, yeah. I said, normally I wouldn't call it because the whiskey allows any photographer to shoot normally. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, they just, that's the policy of the whiskey with the history. And they said, oh, we don't want that. I go, okay, well, just so you know, there's going to be a lot of photographers there. And they're like, thank you for telling us. We don't want that. So we're going to make sure that doesn't happen. I'm like, okay, no problem. And they're like, no, 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 but we want you to shoot it. So will you be Russell's personal photographer for the night? I'm like, yes, I will. And I show up and there I'm at the whiskey. I have my gear on and he's up there rehearsing and gets off stage, walks across the room, walks up to me and says, "Are you Dave? Hi, I'm Russell." And I'm like, my dude, I cannot believe you just, I'm like, you're Russell Crowe. You just walk across the room, you're like thing. And I'm like, he's like, thank you so much for coming down. And it's the thing you never you hear a story and think I had heard so many stories. I'm like, okay, he's Russell Crowe, Academy Award winning thing. The nicest down to earth fellow. And I'm like, I sat and talked with him and thing, and just the stories and what an amazing evening. Um, but as far as like thing, I mean, it's like there was more like it was Russell Crowe, and if it wasn't Russell Crowe, it's a guy standing there singing, and he does. And so that type of thing, it's not as engaging to me. But if you got a guy with long hair and a guitar and is thrashing around and thing, it's a lot more challenging to do than just a guy. It's like I had an amazing shoot with Mickey Dolenz, and again, I'm a big fan of the Monkees, and like again, you do it or whatever. But it's like after the first 5 minutes or 30 seconds of the song, you kind of got the shot. It's like he's standing there singing, and then he's going to stand there and sing, and then he's going to. I mean, I shot recently Paul McCartney again in awe. I mean, it's like the show and the thing. But after the first, minute and a half, you've got the shot of Paul standing there, and the only thing different was he changed guitars. It's like, okay,
Mm.
I want him with the classic guitar, and then that was it. It's like, okay, then he plays piano, and it's like, okay, here's him playing piano. But him playing with the guitar, he just sits there, and then he's behind the mic, and it's just not very interesting. And it's like the music phenomenal, and hopefully you get a good shot, but there's not that energy of being in the mosh pit with a band like Guar or something like that, which is just,
Love
you
Guar.
know, it's just, I'm trying to explain to Guar to people. I'm like, but it's also, it's the energy of it. And the thing a lot of people don't know about music photography is you're only allowed to shoot the first three songs. So you
Really?
go in for the first three songs and you shoot what you can. And then so because they don't, you're a distraction to them, you're a distraction to the fans. So they go in, get your shit when and the band comes out, they look pretty, and then they go. So you have basically 9 minutes, maybe, to get your shots,
Holy
and
crap.
it's that thing. It's like, okay, I got to get my shots, get all the players, and how that and do it. So it's kind of an energy, a rush, especially if there's a like I said with the music of the band. It's been Paul McCartney. I ran, I'm sitting there, click, 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 and then you're sitting there for the next 9 minutes because it's like, okay, he's doing the same thing for the next 9 minutes. He's just singing. But if you got a band like, Zach Wild or something like that, it's like he's gonna be all over the stage. He's gonna do this. So you have to plan your shots and do your things, and it's a whole different thing. But it's an energy rush because it's like I got to get going, and especially if it's a band like Kiss, because you're like, I'm never gonna get this opportunity again
Yeah.
to be here to get this stuff, and it's like you gotta get it right, and so so that's why I like doing that. But I'd go and shoot anyone, but as I said, I did a punk festival, which was really fun too. So just bands with more energy is what I like.
Wow, I never knew about the 9 minute window. I think that's fascinating. I I saw Kiss one time. I know what it's like to see Kiss, but when I got to see them, it was an instrumental, all like acoustic set that they did
Oh wow,
with all bands.
yeah.
Rascal Flatts. They
Oh,
Rascal
interesting.
Flatts was there with them, and they called them out, and they end up doing a little thing together. And I just was thinking, I didn't want to see Rascal Flatts, but okay, like this was
Yeah.
cool. Um,
Yeah, the other thing that most people don't know, that you probably do know, but you mostly don't know, is that every band, well, most every band, but like the bigger bands, touring bands, will do the same exact show every night. So when I say the same exact show, if you go on YouTube now, because again, 20 years ago we didn't have such a thing, but if you go on YouTube, you can watch the concert from 2 nights before. So say you're going to see Kiss, you're going to go shoot Kiss. You can watch the concert from I'm in LA. Okay, they played San Diego 2 nights ago. I'm going to watch fans YouTube of the thing, and it's like, okay, so Gene comes out, he goes here, then Gene goes here, then they do this, and then they can do that thing where Gene and Paul get together and they do the thing. So I want to be here for that. So you plan it out in your head where you're going to be to and who you're going to shoot at what time, even to the extent of like with a band like Anthrax. I know that during the third song, halfway through, that Scott Ian will get up and jump and do his split that he does. So you know what song he's going to do it, where on the stage he's going to do it, and time it. So you're right there set up with your thing because you look at all these photos and it's like, oh my God, they got the guy jumping off the thing and what and how he and it's like, yeah, I knew he was going to do that. I knew where he was going to do it. So I was there, 30 seconds before he did it, setting up, making sure my exposure is correct. And I'm like, okay, and three, two, one, jump. And he jumps and
No, you're
so then you're planning.
you're 100% correct. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've been like driving down the road and I'm listening to Van Halen, and in my head I can see Sammy Hagar performing it because I've seen it so many times
Yeah.
and it's exactly the same. And it's like you'll find yourself dancing to the song like Sammy does or whatever because you've seen
Yeah.
it. And I same thing I could say about, and you talk about going back and seeing old concerts. Just for poops and giggles, one day I started searching YouTube and I found a concert. I saw Metallica, Guns N' Roses, and Faith No More in September of 1992 at the Citrus Bowl in Orlando. And that concert is online. And I was just like,
Hmm.
what? Like, they had professional cameras and stuff. Never noticed. I never
Hmm.
saw that, but it's exactly the same as if you've seen them now. I mean,
Yeah.
that same beat for beat, like maybe not the music, maybe not the vocals, but they're doing that same pattern, and
Yeah.
I never thought about it. You're 100%
Yeah.
right.
Well, and it's the same thing for actors. Going back to Star Trek, it's like actors know that when you're doing a take, and people will say, "Oh, I want to go to Hollywood and be an actor." It's like, well, you got to learn your lines. Okay. Not only do you have to learn your lines, you got to learn your uh, everything because you're doing the same thing every single take. Because even I remember working with what's the actor's name? It was early in my career. I was watching him smoke and watching him that he would take the thing and he would take a puff, but he did it at the same exact point and the same exact thing in the scene. Because
Oh,
if you're cutting between one and the other, you can't have, the cigarette's in this hand, then it's in this hand, then it's in the, and then you sit there and watch the edit. It's like, oh, he's puffing on this one in this take, but in this take he's doing it later, and you can't. And then you realize like you can't edit the scene because this person didn't know how to act, and you're like, it's not the words coming out of the mouth, it's the whole performance. It's like when did they turn, when did they sit down, and how did these things. And so an actor knowing what they're doing is really important.
it's really about learning your moves as well. This
Yep.
leads me to wonder with of all the people that you've ever worked with, you've ever met, or anything else, and you've had moments that you spoke about here of being in awe. Have you ever had, and if you have had, what's your favorite moment of being starstruck? Or if it's ever happened?
um I've, I couple moments. I have a fun story. So I was at years and years ago, they had Stanley Kubrick, the famous filmmaker. He passed away, and a friend of mine was in the DGA at the time, and they were doing a memorial service for Stanley at the DGA, at the DGA third. So we signed up for it. And we went down to do it, and it was all these amazing speakers telling stories about Stanley, and then afterwards they had kind of like a little cocktail thing in the lobby there, and we were standing there, and I look, and of course there's Steven Spielberg, and he's standing in the middle of the room, and he's standing with Jack Nicholson and Warren Beatty, and they're standing there talking, and then all of a sudden, kind of Nicholson and Beatty start talking with other people, and Spielberg's just kind of sitting there looking around, thing. And I look around the room, and every single nerd in the room is like, "Oh my God, I want to go talk to him. We're going to talk to him." I'm like, I'm going to dignify myself by being the only nerd with the balls to do it. And I just walk up and start talking to him. And he's like a super nice guy, and we, blah blah blah. We're working on it. At the time, I was working with Roger Corman, and this and that and the other thing, and we're talking, and he's like fully engaged. Didn't like, who is this person? And he's like, "Oh, I want to talk." So we're sitting there talking, and the entire room's now looking at me because they're like, dude had the actual balls to go do that. Now he's doing it. And then as I'm talking to him, I'm like looking straight at him and going, oh my God, this is Steven Spielberg, my idol, and this and that. And then in my peripheral, I see Jack Nicholson and Warren Beatty turn to see who the hell Steven's talking to. So I'm like talking to Spielberg, Jack Nicholson, Warren Beatty, and now all three of them are looking at me. And it's kind of like, I'm like, oh my God, I need to not be here anymore because this is like a level of, you know. And oddly, I had just finished doing a movie with Jack Nicholson that he didn't know about. It was a movie called, if you can find it, I think you probably on YouTube. It's called Velocity.
Okay,
So
I
it
know
was a
it.
Roger Corman. It was a, well, it's not probably not the Velocity you've ever heard of. It's a Roger Corman movie that he took. It was a movie called The Wild Ride. So it was Jack Nicholson's first movie, his very first feature film, 1950 something, black and white. And Roger took and colorized it. So he had a black and white Jack Nicholson movie. How do I make money on this? So then he took that, colorized it, and so that, but it was a B movie, which was only 60 minutes long. So then he had to have this B movie, 60 minutes long. What do I do with it now? Well, we just finished doing a race car movie with Steve Guttenberg and Robert Wagner. And in The Wild Ride, he's a race car driver, like a dirt track driver. So we're going to take some footage from the Steve Guttenberg movie that I just shot, take this colorized movie, and then we'll shoot some new footage with a Jack Nicholson lookalike, and we'll do put all this stuff together, and we get a movie. And it was not good, but it actually made him a lot of money because he's like, the Velocity starring Jack Nicholson. And but I said, I just finished doing that. And I turned around. I said, yeah, I just finished doing a movie with Roger Corman and you. And I told Jack this, and he's like, that Roger. And I didn't say anything to Warren Beatty, which oddly, talking about people I was in awe of, years later, I would edit the Lifetime Achievement Reel because I also edit for Warren Beatty. And I had sent it over to him and his people. And it was a Saturday night. And I remember sitting there and my phone rings. And he's like, is this Dave? And I go, yeah. And he goes, hi, Dave, it's Warren Beatty. And I'm like, that didn't just happen. I'm like, hi, Mr. Beatty, how are you? He's like, hey, I hope you got the notes that I sent over regarding the edit. I'm like, yes, I did, and I sent you over the new revised thing. He goes, I watched it and it wasn't very good. I'm like, oh,
Wow.
okay, sorry. He goes, no, 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 the first one you did made my wife cry. And I'm like, wait, your wife's Annette Bening. I made Annette Bening cry. How awesome is that? And he goes, but then I gave you all those notes and then I watched it and it doesn't work. And I go, okay. I'm like waiting for him to like be mad at him. He's like, can you explain to me why? I'm like, why it doesn't work? And he goes, yeah. I go, well, he goes, well, let's go back and we spent 2 hours going through my edit. And it took me about like 20 minutes before I realized he's a filmmaker, like an Academy Award winning director, and he's trying to figure out why my shots or my edit worked and his edit didn't work. And what was I thinking when I did it? Because he's like, oh, he was just curious as to why my thing worked better and what was my thought process. And we're like, I'm talking editing with Warren Beatty for 2 hours. And it's like,
Wow.
and again, extremely nice fellow. And it's like so many people I've met. It's like I very small handful of people. They're like, oh, people are jerks in this, and it's like most of the people I've had the honor of meeting, either I've got them on good days or something. But even it's like William Shatner, man. It's like talking about being in awe. I've given the tours with him at Ticonderoga, and I'm sitting across the briefing room table on the Enterprise with William Shatner talking about the design of the Enterprise. I'm like, how cool is that? And he's just a phenomenal fellow as well. And it's like again, so I've had great opportunities to meet so many wonderful people, and every one of them has impressed me.
Would you say, what would, aside from meet and greets outside of work, going with work, what is your career highlight so far?
Oh, it has to be Star Trek. I mean, but yeah, we talk about like work highlight. Imagine going to work every single day and your boss is Jonathan Frakes. It's like when he's directing his episode. It's like talk about someone who elevates the human condition just walking in the room. That man is I can't even put into words how cool he is as a person, how inspiring, how creative. It's one of those things you're like, holy shit, you're Riker, but it's like I he is one of the nicest, most genuine human beings I've ever met in my life. And like I said, can't speak enough about the man. It's just, he directed episode season two. So in season two, he wasn't in the season, so he was just directing. Um, and then he came in and obviously did season three, and he directed episodes. He directed two episodes in season three, which I do believe are some of my two of my favorite episodes of Star Trek ever. And also, I believe it's the best Riker ever. It's when they lose power and they're in uh, they have the whole power outage and everything and like that, and then they have to ride the wave of the space babies being born and everything. And it's like he really just that has to be the highlight. Just doing that and creating those two episodes of Star Trek that, in addition to like obviously the Enterprise D and coming back, but those two episodes I think are just really good Star Trek and the emotions and the things and just getting to work with him. But he's an amazing human being. So.
There's an old adage when it comes to Star Trek fans: if we see directed by Jonathan Frakes, we know it's going to be a great episode. So,
Yeah, it's like I did episodes of Longmire with Peter Weller, RoboCop,
yeah,
and God, talk about another amazing human being, just completely different amazing human being. But it's everyone. It's like there's so many different things, and it's just people bring their A game to the thing and the different personalities. I love big personalities. I think if you're going to be a director or someone in Hollywood that, you have to have that. It's like, and I'm working right now with the director Mick G. And again, same thing, just the dude's on a different level. I mean, so you're
yeah.
talking about the creativity and the knowledge of what we're doing, but also it's just the personality is just there. And it's like you get into the room with someone like that and that's why they're a film director because they have that commanding personality where you're like, no, I want to do right by this person because this guy gets it and he's creative and he's gonna lead us in the right place.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever seen a project by Mick G that I didn't like anyways. And then thinking about directors, I'm thinking, what is his name? And you might be able to know. I know you would have worked with him on, oh, wasn't Preacher? It might have been Preacher you worked with him on. He did Paris. What's Paris's name?
Paris
He
Barclay?
Paris Barkley.
Yeah.
Paris Barkley is
Yeah, I
another.
worked.
Yeah, I know that name because I see he's directed so many really great things. Specifically, I would notice him on Sons of Anarchy.
Yeah,
Um,
so Paris, I worked with him on a baseball show called Pitch,
it's
and he was our
Pitch.
directing producer. So I worked with him again, incredibly talented. And again, it's the that's the thing. A lot of people don't they don't realize like that every episode or most every episode of TV is shot by a different director. I mean, we get to have someone like Leah Thompson come in and direct, which was pretty amazing. So on Preacher and I worked with Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg. They're an amazing directing pair, and just I mean, you like Seth. You work with Seth Rogen. He's hilarious. I'm like, no, actually, he's not. He's just very laser focused and very he knows what humor is. He's just not like a laughing, joking around all the time guy. He's just very one of the most brilliant, talented guys that I've had the pleasure to work with. He gets it on so many levels. So, but you just get the opportunity to work with all these different people, and it's good fun.
That's good. I recently started watching Seth Rogen on the studio,
Yeah.
and I was gonna say there's if anything else, it shows he has a singular vision when it comes to a project, and I can appreciate that. The Pitch was a good show too. I think Pitch didn't really get its fair due when it was on. It didn't. I wanted more. I really really wanted more of that show, and
Yeah, we all did, and it was unfortunate because it w- it was a much bigger budget show than it was prepared to be because they had this cool idea. It's like a girl pitcher in the major leagues. I'm like, okay, and it's this and that, and you're like, okay, but you do realize that like half the games that we're gonna have to see during the season are played on the road. So we like gotta go to, you know, different ballparks around the country and shoot the show. And that, like there's no TV show in the world that's set up to do that and on a network level. So that's like, maybe if you're a big streaming, Amazon or something, but not on a weekly Fox show.
uh, and I didn't think about that. I guess a lot of times you get sucked into the story and you don't really think about what it's costing to entertain us all. Out of curiosity, who has been your biggest inspiration through your career? I mean, you said you grew up in Massachusetts,
Mm.
and I know from your bio that you ended up moving to Los Angeles for the job and to do this career. But who inspired you to make that leap?
I think it was, Joe Johnston was really the inspiration for me because when I was growing up, I looked up on huge star. I was more of a Star Trek fan, but the challenge was when I started getting into the filmmaking or the idea of it. Star Trek had already been off, so it was kind of in that early '70s before the motion picture came out and Star Wars was a huge thing. But the thing with Star Wars is that they had these specials, these making of specials, where they went behind the scenes and they showed you the models and the things and how they do everything. I'm like, wait, that's a thing? Like, there's people that do that? I want to do that. That's what I want to do. And that there hadn't been anything like that for Star Trek. So it was so then watching Star Wars, I'm like, well, who's the guy who does the spaceships and stuff? And I look up and it's like art director Joe Johnston. I'm like, that's who I want to be. I want to be Joe Johnston. And so really that was, and then I just targeted. I'm like, okay, well, how did he do his thing? Where did he go? And I'm like, oh, he worked for ILM. I'm gonna go work for ILM, and I graduated college, got a one-way plane ticket to San Francisco, got off in the bus, got a ride up. I'm like, knock, knock, knock. Hi, ILM. I'm Dave Blass. I'm here for a job. And that didn't work out, but and again, never meet your idols. I years later, I had the chance to meet Joe Johnston, and he was incredibly gracious. It was oddly enough, it was a wonderful night for him. It was at the premiere of the first. He directed the first Captain America movie.
Oh,
So it was at the premiere, and I went up and I said, I told him the story, and he's like, "Ah, dude, don't put this on me. It's not my fault that you're out here having to deal with all this shit." And extremely nice guy, and I've met him a couple times over the years. I actually have a book, and he found out later on that I designed Justified. And he's like, "I love that show." And I'm like, so the fact that my idol enjoys my work, is such a nice compliment. But Joe Johnston, James Cameron. Cameron became a thing because I was working at Roger Corman's studio, and that's where, as a art director and production designer, and that's where James Cameron started his career as an art director and production designer, and then directed. So that was a big push for me at that point in my career. So it really depends. And then getting into Star Trek, I had the opportunity to have Herman Zimmerman come and take a tour of my sets, and he's been so kind, and people like John Eves and Doug Drexler, Mike Okuda, all these people have been so wonderful to work with, and I was blessed to have them on the show, but it was also blessed to be the one who said, "Guys, stop being stupid. Get these people back in Star Trek, and why are we not doing this?" And it was kind of a pushing a rock up a hill, but I'm glad I was able to do it, and that they all had one more lap around the sun with Star Trek. So it was that was good fun.
That's good. I remember the old behind the scenes videos for like Star Wars. HBO was really notorious for putting them on, and at least in my youth, I would see them on HBO, and I remember like that was the first time I'd ever seen like the character of Biggs, on Tatooine, and I'm like, who's this guy? I'd see him in the background, and like he
Mhm.
wouldn't be in the film, so I didn't know who he
Yeah.
was, and so I always loved
Well,
those.
you got to take that back. What about 20 years? So when I was a kid, there was no HBO, there was no videotape, there was no.
Yeah,
So it was literally a uh, you would sit there and plop yourself in front of the TV, and when the show was over, it was over, and when a movie left the movie theater, you never saw it again. It's like you had to wait, and maybe it would come on TV or something like that. So I remember just being glued to the TV when they had the night that they had the specials going on. They were like the making of Star Wars, and I'm like, oh my God. And it was like, Joe Johnston, the thing. I remember running and writing down the name, and then but again, it was like this was pre-internet, pre all that stuff. So you had to like go buy a magazine and read up on that and things like that. And so I remember that was the thing. So I had seen the guy's name and done this, and then I'd read it in a fan magazine. So, but yeah, the world's changed so dramatically since then, because now it's like everything is so passing. It's like if you don't see a movie in the theaters, wait, a month and it will be on home video and you can buy it and download it and own it. And, it's like when I was in college, a videotape, if you wanted to buy a videotape, it was $100. I remember like vividly. And because that's if you lost your Blockbuster rental, it was $100.
yeah. No, I remember
So,
when Generations came out on VA or came out. I was working in a video store, a local video rental place, and of course, they would end up getting. Well, Generations didn't come out to rent for a year
yeah.
until after it come out, and still wasn't. You couldn't buy it in stores, so I ended up buying a copy from the video store, and it was 100. It was like 100, $120, but I didn't care. I got to go home and watch Generations again for the first time
Yeah.
in a year, and I was like, that was great. But I
Yeah.
think back to I don't. I might have it. I don't think I have it near me. There was a movie called Zots. Came out back in the 60s. My mom had seen it, and I remember a conversation she had with me as in the 90s. And it was man, I can't remember the name. I cannot remember the name of the guy that was in it. He was in that show Newhart with Bob Newhart. He played his handyman. But anyway, it was a movie where you hold a coin and you say Zots and you get all the wishes you wanted in the world. And she would tell me about this movie and how much she loved it when she was a kid, and but you could never see it again. And I tracked down a copy on VHS for her so that she could finally see it again. Now it's even harder to find now, but I still got that tape because it's one of these movies that's lost. And then, unfortunately, that happens to a lot of things. It's lost to
Yep.
history. Um,
Yeah, I have a lot of films that I've done, and it's like, I just unpacked, and it's like I have them on VHS. I've digitized them, but then it's like, okay, every so often I get to redigitize them because I'm like, okay, the equipment that I digitized them on before was only at this resolution. You can only do this. Now you can do better. But it's like, did a movie make the jump from VHS to DVD?
yeah,
So many of them didn't. And it's like, did it make the jump from DVD to Blu-ray? No. Okay, so and then definitely did make the jump from Blu-ray to 4K. So
yeah,
if something's on VHS, and it's what's weird is, and again, it's one of those Mandela effects or whatever. I don't remember TV looking as, I mean, if you watch something like a VHS tape now, it looks horrible.
yeah.
But like, okay, wait, it didn't used to look that horrible, or did our eyes completely change? Like, what is it that, like, we used to watch it and it'd be fine. You sit there and watch, a movie. I'm like, it didn't look like shit. It's like, but now whatever you watch, it looks like shit. I'm like, why is that? Like, and it's like, I don't know if it's that it was optimized for a CRT or something, but it's like it's very weird that it's like you watch something on VHS and it's like it's unwatchable now.
And,
I'm like,
you're right, especially if you look at things that are NTSTs, like in the United States, in comparison to something that was PAL for
ow. Oh.
Canada or something else. It was a better resolution in the PAL, almost
Uh-huh.
like what I would like to refer to as watching a Mexican telenovela. Like
Yeah.
if you grew up in the 80s, 90s, 70s, and you see that telenovela, it was like you could reach out and touch it. And to me, that was always my level of understanding. Like, why does this look this way and this doesn't? You
Yep.
know, so you're 100% dead on. There was a TV show called V with Robert Englund and Mark
Oh yeah.
Singer. Okay, loved V, and I remember like watching it when I was a kid, and it was great. And then my grandmother had bought me all of them on VHS. So at one point, and I remember watching them, and I was like, okay, this is good. But then a couple of years ago, I bought them on Blu-ray, and
Mhm.
holy cow, that's it's like you play them side by side, it's night and day. Um, and you're right. As long as things get that treatment, there are things even like La Bamba. My wife and I recently had found a copy of La Bamba on VHS, so we hook up the VCR, we play it, and enjoy it. Well, I decided to upgrade to Criterion.
Mhm.
Criterion can only do a 2K resolution. They have no way to make it 4K because they don't have access to the original files.
Mhm.
And so even something 87, that even going back that far is harder to get. So it's
Right.
the further back in time we go, the harder it's getting.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I could.
Well, that's where we're running into with the things like Voyager and
Yeah,
DS9. And what Paramount is doing is, they could spend the money and go and remaster, but the problem is, the Viz effects were only done at the resolution of the TV show. So I mean, even if they have video, or I'm assuming they were shooting film at the time, but they could upres go to film. The film would be better, but the Viz effects are crap, and they would have to redo them all.
yeah,
So most studios that I know are waiting for the AI upresing technology to get better so that they just pump the original source through it and it just fixes it, which
yeah,
is why we don't have a Blu-ray of Voyager or DS9. They're going to wait and let the technology get to the point, and it will be there probably in the next 5 years, where they can basically pump it in and the AI tech will upres it and take it to 4K. I mean, again,
yeah,
because why would you do it? You spend all that money now to get it to Blu-ray, but Blu-ray is becoming obsolete as everyone wants to go to 4K. So
right.
it's like do it once, take it to 4K with AI and see how it goes. But I'm trying to think what it was. I think it was Aliens. Uh, they did a re-release in 4K, and everyone was just complaining about the AI in it and how, but that's what they did. They just had AI upres it to 4K.
Yeah, well, there's been some bad ones even before AI was commonplace, like Predator.
Yeah.
The first Schwarzenegger Predator, the 4K release when they redid it was absolutely atrocious.
Yeah.
Same could be said for uh, what was it? The Fifth Element. Fifth Element, like
Hmm.
preferably, I prefer the VHS because the visuals in that movie should not be seen at a high resolution.
Right.
And I've tried to explain it to people. It's like I look at like the 4K of that one, and it's like looking at a cardboard box. You can see all the flaws.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, it's the same thing. It's like and again, I know exactly why it was done. I have no negativity, but it's like the George Lucas redos of 4, 5, and 6 when he redid them, added footage and re-released them in the theaters. It's like I know why you did it and everything, but if you watch those now, they're horrible because you're like, oh my God, that the 1997 Viz effects just jump out at you because it's
yeah,
like, oh my God, those are so dated. And it's like, well, the original ones are dated too, but it's like, yeah, but now I have two dated things in one thing. I'd rather look at it and be that's the original rather than this is the original, and it's kind of like that painting where the guy tried to touch it up and it became like a monkey face. It's like, no, just leave it, and it's like we'll appreciate it for what it is and the how it represents the time and the era and stuff. Like we don't need to,
Yeah.
redo it.
Yeah, I'm fortunate enough I own the original Holy Trilogy, as it were, without any edits and stuff. So I'm happy about that. Um,
You do or you?
I do. I do.
Okay.
I do own. I have it on VHS. Kind of a sad story. I have it on VHS and I have DVD. They had released them uncut, untouched on DVD, very limited, and I picked them up. I'll send you a picture, or post it on here. I'll post it on here so people can see what it looks like. But and then the VHS, when my father passed away, about a year after he passed, I was visiting my stepmother, and one of the last birthday gifts he had bought for me was the original VHS of the trilogy he had found sealed. And
Wow.
so she gave it to me so that I could have it. And I've never opened it. No reason to open that. I'll use the DVDs if I want to watch it. But it's something that is harder and harder to find, and it's
Oh
something
yeah.
I'll pass on to my kid. So hopefully he'll take it. And anytime I find a VCR, I buy one just in case.
Oh yeah. No, I still have mine from on Laserdisc,
Oh, there you
which
go.
theoretically is the highest quality version of it ever that was done.
I
So
started I started rebuying the Star Treks on the RCA discs
yeah.
back here. I started rebuying those just so I can have them because if nothing else, it's good pieces of art.
Yep. It is. So
Well, Dave, I
all
don't.
right. Coming to
I'm
the
gonna,
end of it, my next one coming up.
not a problem, man. I appreciate your time. Thank you so very much, and you have a great day.
Thank you very much. Let me know when your podcast is up, and I'll make sure to share it.
I will do so.
Take care.